Hey guys, it's Ryan from the Red Path here with Josie, and we're going to diagnose and break down the Possessed Slaughterband. How you been, Josie?
I've been pretty good. I'm looking forward to this. This is one of my favorite detachments, and I think it's been a little bit misunderstood since the Codex came out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to shedding a bit of light on what's been going on with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I remember like we obviously come back recently and reading this, like we've got an 8-bound detachment. Oh man, this is gonna be my
Yeah,
favorite one. This is gonna be the best one. Like 100%, this has to be the way to play. And then I'm like, what are these rules? What's happening here? Why is it only like 3 models that get anything? And so it's like, to be honest, I'm still am like conflicted about the detachment, and I'm hoping that your skills and your experience with the detachment can kind of turn me around a little bit on it. So I'm looking forward to that. What do you think, broad strokes here, why people aren't using the detachment?
I think people take one look at the detachment role, and it is admittedly underwhelming. People also are pretty hung up on how much less durable 8-bound got since the switch over to the Codex. 8-bound did get notably worse for a while. Since then, they've gotten cheaper, and Exalted 8-bound have gotten stronger.
Hmm.
They're still kind of durability is definitely still a problem with them, especially if you make an army that is almost entirely made up of them. But Possess gives you a couple of ways to work around that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's like we were talking just before we started recording, and you were saying that there are 10 people who have played this detachment basically, and the win rate is at like 63. It's our highest win rate detachment,
Certainly is.
which is awesome. And I can imagine that not a lot of people have been playing it even since the Exalted buff, which has happened. And so maybe a lot of people are sleeping on the ability of this detachment post change.
Absolutely. This it is a detachment that is not amazing. It's to put that out there right at the start now. This is not going to be the detachment that takes on Berserker Warband and becomes the one that every World Eater player should run. What it offers is a toolkit that is really good at dealing with some really specific situations, and it does that better than anything in the Codex, possibly anything in the game. It's an incredible anti-melee detachment.
Okay.
Almost certainly does that better than anything else we have access to. And it's fantastic for that. It's
Awesome.
not perfect, but it's good.
Well, I feel like we're almost entering a melee meta here. We just finished the slate, and a lot of talk about Vitrix Honor Guard and Drukhari. Obviously, Space Wolves are still running around, and so there's quite a bit of melee on the top of mind. And so I think maybe if we break this down, hopefully we can find some fun tools for people to use that aren't warband. So
Absolutely.
speaking of fun tools that aren't warband, that's kind of where we're going. We're going to start breaking down all the detachments. 7, 8 months after the Codex and kind of see where they all are now, see what's going on with these and how we can kind of make it work at a competitive level.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's break down this detachment, Josie. Let's see what the rules are. All right, guys, we're back. Let's talk about the rules here. So let's start with the maligned and earlier indicated rule for the detachment, which is called Brazen Fury, and that's when an opponent shoots you, you can move, each unit can move once and make a roll of D6 to do so. It's basically a blood surge for 8-bound. It's only for possessed, so that's the 8-bound, the exalted, and the slaughterbound. Realistically, it's a slightly worse blood surge than the berserkers have, obviously, because there's no native +2. Um, and you can get into engagement range, but you can't do it on a unit that's battle shocked or already within engagement range. So pretty much standard surge rules apply. Um, this sounds really fun, and it was really fun in Vessels of Wrath before the Codex, when you could, stack a 4 up invul and then a 5 up feel no pain, and then -1 to wound on exalted on a brick of 6 exalted, and be like, shoot me, I dare you. Um,
Oh, Index 8 bar, my beloved. I do miss them.
so talk to me a little bit about this. Obviously, you've used it in practice. You went 4-1 at the LGT with basically this detachment. Someone took that list later and won a GT with it. So clearly it's not useless. I'm sure there are points in the game where this does come up. Talk to me a little bit about how this impacts the game and maybe why this is underwhelming and why it can surprise.
Yeah, so partly this depends on how nice a player you are. As with most Blood Surge moves, if you are a good player, a player who is a good opponent to your opponents, then as an opponent moves close to you, you will remind them that yes, I have a Blood Surge move. It is D6 inches and it relies on you not killing the entire unit in one shooting activation. And your opponent will say, okay, great, how far does that go? And you say, oh, it's just a D6, it's only D6. So if you're outside of 7 inches, I literally can't touch you. And they'll say, okay. They'll either say one or two things. They'll either say, one, I'll just stay outside of 7 inches then. Problem solved, no worries. Or two, I'm just going to kill the entire unit in one go because what you have is a 5-up invuln and nothing else. As you say, I played this at LGT at the London Grand back in September. I played 5 games all weekend. I made 1 Blood Surge, and it did not get me into combat.
Oh no.
It it fundamentally never comes up.
Oh, brutal.
Most of the time, if your opponent plays around it, you don't actually want to move because where you've positioned yourself is either on an objective, in which case you don't want to leave it, or behind a wall or in cover, in which case you don't want to leave it if your opponent
Mhm.
is not standing close enough to maybe surge into.
Yeah.
It's not a good rule. Most of the time, we say that Possessed Slaughterband fundamentally doesn't have a detachment rule. It's not quite right. It does force some opposing lists to make a 7-inch bubble around your units, and there is an amount of value in that.
Mhm.
The problem that Possessed has compared to Berserker Warband is we don't have sticky on death. So if they just stay 7 inches away and shoot your unit to death, you've gained nothing from it, which
Yeah.
is not ideal. So you don't tend to position this army in such a way to try to take advantage of the Blood Surge because it's incredibly difficult to actually take any real advantage of the Surge.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's aside from that, I think that's important to mention is that we at the Red Path, we do want to make sure that we're playing to the best sportsmanship at all times. And so with as an army with a lot of surge moves, it's super important to at least me, and I know Josie obviously to make sure that your opponent is aware that these feel bads don't happen. The rule itself, obviously, like you said, doesn't have power maybe in and of itself in terms of the move, but it forces opponents to do a little bit different things. Realistically, though, I would love something different. Like I don't think anyone is arguing for this rule to stay. There's no pounding of fists on tables for this one. Okay, so let's get into the enhancements a little bit. I there's some goodies. There's some goodies in here. So
Definitely.
what do we got? We got malicious vigor for 30 points currently on a slaughterbound only. And each time the bear makes a brazen fury move, it is treated as having rolled a 6. So this is an auto 6 on that blood surge, which is nice.
It's great
I
on paper, isn't it?
I don't think I'm ever spending 30 points for that.
No, it's
Ever.
incredibly expensive. I
That's
did not take this in my list, and I can never really see myself taking it in a list unless I've suddenly found myself with a slaughterbound and 30 points spare. If I've taken the 2 good enhancements, in my opinion, and I've got 30 points chilling in my list, I would take it just because.
yeah.
It's a guaranteed 6. It forces your opponent to actually stay 7 inches away rather than them saying, oh, well, you're not going to roll a 6 and I'll just stay 6 inches away.
Yeah.
There's something there. It's not 30 points kind of something.
That's a 5 points worth of something in my opinion. Like that's like a not a good enhancement.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on. We'll go Killing Clarity, and this is only 15 points. And each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit, so the unit, not so the bearer's unit, not the bearer itself, which is an important distinction, destroys an enemy unit. Roll 1d6, and on a 4 up, you gain a CP. You will probably maybe say a little something different. I don't love these type of enhancements where you have to pay points to take something and then make a roll to make something happen on a thing that your opponent is trying to prevent you from doing anyway. Like you have to basically make three different things happen here. You have to get the enhancement on the right unit, kill a unit with that unit, and then make a 4 up roll to get a CP. That seems like a lot of stuff needs to happen for you.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this. This for me is the third enhancement. This is only 15 points, which means it's much more likely that I'll have 15 points spare.
Mhm.
And it's the kind of thing that you just sort of plug in and forget about. If you put it on a Slaughterband that hasn't got any other enhancement, then sure. If he runs in and kills something, you go, oh wait, I've got that ability, and then you
If you
roll not a
remember it.
4 up. This isn't just locked to Slaughterbands though; it is also any what is demon model, which means it does work on the demon princes.
Mhm.
Now, I wouldn't take a demon prince with wings in this detachment; it doesn't do anything. I would take a footprints in this detachment, and if you've got the 15 points spare to put it on your footprints, maybe he gets into combat. And we'll explore why you take a demon prince once we got into the stratagems here. But there's a couple more enhancements still.
Demons, princes, good. All right, Frenzied Focus. Now I hear this one is pretty good.
This is the juice,
This
absolutely.
is this is maybe the sauce of the detachment. World Eater's demon model only, but realistically, there's only one model you want to put this on, I assume.
Slaughterbound, in we go.
Each, each time a model in the bear's unit makes an attack, crits are scored on unmodified hit rolls of fives instead of sixes. So sustains and lethals go off on 5 pluses, which is awesome.
It's incredible. It's one half of the combo that sends your damage to the moon in this detachment.
Yeah.
And it's only 20 points. This is cheaper than the Auto 6 and a Blood Surge. It's something went wrong when they were making those points, but I will take advantage of this one being cheap. For 20 points, it's amazing. You never not take this enhancement. This is the first one on every possessed list you ever build.
Yeah, you really like I don't even know, like maybe we'll talk about more of this in list building. Um Realistically, I haven't done much of the Slaughter Band list building, but realistically, I was looking at this. I'm like, do I even want this on a full squad of six? Like, this is just like this like sends a unit of three to kill like a unit of six, and then I can save my points elsewhere. Um,
100%. So in practice, I run this. This is definitely the detachment that I took in my list, and I will take it in every list I ever build. But every time I've actually ran this on the tabletop, I've not put this in with the six. It's not been necessary. You put somebody else in with the six, somebody that gives something to a 6-man unit. A 3-man with a Slaughterbound will kill anything with this enhancement.
Wild. Okay, so let's get to the clearly by process of elimination, Josie's second favorite enhancement of this list, and it's World Eater's Demon model only. So once again, can be on a Demon Prince. It's only 10 points, making it the cheapest one. And the Bear's Deadly Demise ability inflicts mortal wounds on a 2 up instead of a 6. In addition, the bear has a deadly demise of D3 plus 1 instead of D3. So you get one extra mortal and you explode on a 2 up. Hilariously, for those of you who don't know, the Slaughterbound has a deadly demise ability. Um, so that's really funny.
Yeah, and it is Deadly Demise D3, which always surprises me. Like you feel like it should be like 1, maybe. The fact that it
Yeah.
explodes at all is hilarious. But yeah, this is a weird one for me to recommend. This is a very sort of tech pick because
Hmm.
you look at this enhancement and you say, "Oh, it's pretty rubbish." It's very much
Yeah.
a spare model kind of thing. What I find with the possessed list is that it really struggles into things like Eldar, into
Hmm.
things like Admech, things like Sisters. These all have one very key thing in common: is that they all have one wound. Several of them have access to fight first, ways of neutralizing what Possessed Slaughterband can do before it gets in. What I really like to do with this guy, if I'm against those kind of armies, is to not attach him to any 8 bound. Leave
Hmm.
him solo. Stick him in a transport, or put him off the board. Usually in a transport for me, and just punt him directly into the middle of my opponent's army. I'll pick something with fight first if I can find it, and if not, I'm just going to run him into something that he's not going to kill. He's going to try, but he's not going to do it, and he will die, and he will explode, and he will pick up 20 points worth of opposing models, 20 wounds worth of opposing models, and that's all he has to do. Those kind of lists with a lot of MSU, a lot of ways of dealing with A-bound very efficiently. He just chunks whole portions of a list down on his own.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
he's my tactical nuke is what I've called him,
that's so
and
funny.
I love this guy. I think it's a really neat enhancement that gets around some of what the limitations are of the detachment in a way that is fluffy and actually quite fun as well.
Yep. And I think, and like, I guess to blow smoke for a second, I think that's what makes you really unique as a Warhammer player is that you don't subscribe normally to the normal sauce that everyone kind of leans into. You go off meta, you go off script, and you do kind of do your own thing. Because when I read this for the first time, I'm just like, this guy's gonna blow up in my own army. And like I was like, this is so bad. Like, why do I want this? But yeah, when you look at the meta, like obviously Eldar just got hit, Admech just got hit, Sisters just got hit, but those armies didn't disappear. Dark
No.
Eldar is still there. You're still going to see lots of Admech. You're still going to see lots of Sisters. Like for those of you, and then who knows what your personal meta is for the viewer, right? Like everyone's got their own personal thing. Not everyone plays the top tables versus 18 Victrix Guard every day. So like, what is your personal meta? What are you dealing with? And if it's a lot of like one wound spam armies, maybe this is would be really fun, a really fun tech pick. You go in there, he has his Roid Rage moment, gets off his 9 attacks, and then after that explodes when someone kills him, and oops, killed your stuff. Like that's really awesome. That's really really cool. All right, so let's get into the strats. Um, da, 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 da. We've got a 2 CP strat to start us off here, Demonic Resistance, and this is subtract 1 from the wound roll in the shooting or fight phase when you're selected as the target of an attack. So this is super important here that it's basically the shooting or fight phase, and it can be obviously anyone's fight phase. And it's -1 from the wound roll, and there's no strength is higher nonsense here. So
Exactly.
this is incredibly powerful, and to be honest, costed as such.
Yes.
It is 2 CP, which makes it a hard pill to swallow a lot of the times. Tell me about it.
It is an expensive strat. You will find yourself wanting to use this stratagem a lot more than you should. It is definitely something that is best saved for key moments because you will. This attachment fairly regularly spends a couple of CP a turn. You won't find yourself having banked 8 CP. Not unless you're really specifically trying to do that. But if you can go into something that wounds you on, I mean, something that wounds you on fives and you make it wound you on sixes, it's amazing. Like, well, the 8 bound are still T6. There are lots of things that ordinarily wound them on fives.
Mhm.
And if you can make them wound you on sixes, that halves the damage output. It's incredible. But even just in a key melee, something going from wounding on threes to fours or fours to fives is very common. There's a lot of strength six with a reasonable number of attacks. And if you can make that suddenly start wounding you on fives, you take so much less damage than you expect. It's huge. If you've got the CP spare, it's worth considering. In practice, it comes up less often than I'd like it to, but it is a very strong strat. Very strong.
Yeah, I find that I assume that people could get themselves into trouble with the stratagem using it when they shouldn't, because even
Yes.
though it may have an impact in that moment, is that moment worthy of 2 CP in the game? Like, will
Yeah.
that like is that model is that saving that unit worth? First of all, will you save that unit? And then second of all, is saving that unit worth the 2 CP at this time when you could have spent it on a brick of 8 bound elsewhere? Still, that's an amazing stratagem that I think any detachment would love to have. Like
Yeah.
literally any detachment in the game would love to have that strat. Um, okay, so next is demonic strength.
This
So
is the one.
we've got resistance and then strength, and it's wild to me that this is the 1 CP. Like there are like 3 banger strats, and two of them are one C, and two of them are two CP. And the one of them that's one CP is plus one damage on your eight bound when they fight non-monsters or vehicles. This is super important because I really liked the way that they worded this. Non-monster vehicles means swarms, chariots, cavalry, any nonsense that's not a monster or vehicle gets plus one damage from regular eight bound. Exalted get plus one damage against monsters or vehicles and nothing else. Wild.
It's absolutely insane. And it's very intuitive because basically, if it's the things that your exalted would ordinarily get plus one damage against from their datasheet, you can give another plus one damage. In the same way, if it's something that your regular bound would get their plus one to hit against, you get plus one damage. So it's very intuitive, very easy to understand, and it's extremely spammable. If you're against anything that with that extra damage tips you over, if you're running into three wound models or if you're into frankly any given vehicle, you just pop it for the reliability. It is worth obviously remembering that this does stack with the Exalted 8 Bound's new datasheet ability. So it's bumping your regular 8 bound from damage 2 to damage 3. It's bumping your Exalted from damage 3 to damage 4.
Which is just silly. Like we're like, oh, glaive bound in Warband detachment, so good with that damage four, so good, and now you just have a unit of them.
Yeah.
Like because this affects the leader as well. Like right, like it affects the Slaughterband.
Yep.
So he like in an eight bound unit targeting infantry, he's damage three. So he just becomes glaive bound in a regular eight bound, and he becomes glaive bound in a exalted unit as well, which is just wild.
Yeah, it's incredible. If the damage would matter, you use this every single time a unit fights. If it's that good, you don't even consider it. You just slam it on, get stuff dead.
Man, with that defensive strat and then this offensive strat, I just wish there was a way to make strats a little cheaper somehow in this codex.
Oh, yeah,
For
imagine if we had access to that.
Imagine. That'd be crazy. So let's talk about spending even more CP. Two of them, in fact. And this, I think, is kind of the key part of what makes this attachment so anti-melee, realistically. And it's
100%.
an automatic fights on death for any possessed unit. Um, there's one thing that 8 bound do, and it's clearly not survive. It's murder stuff. Like they're really good at killing stuff. Um, and just guaranteeing that if you even swing a fan at me, I'm gonna kill you back. Like that's wild.
Yeah,
So,
it's insane. And obviously, world eaters have access to a conditional fight on death already in our blessings. We have access to roll a 4 up, you get to fight on death. That is a very common thing for Berserker Warband players and for any World Eaters players really to have on in a melee matchup.
mhm.
And anybody who's played any number of World Eaters games knows that the 4 ups will fail you in key moments and you will fail to kill something that you had expected to fight on death into.
Yep.
The access to this strat means that you never actually have to have that blessing on. And that means two
Mhm.
things. One, it means that you never have to roll your 4 ups. This is great news. We all love this. And the other thing that sort of you don't even really think about because you pop in fight on death all the time when you're in a melee game. All of a sudden, you still have sustain and lethal or sustain and
Mhm.
dev. You still have access to all of your damage buffs that normally you sacrifice one of in a Berserker Warband melee game.
Mhm.
And it makes for an incredibly lethal fight on death. It changes it from maybe I kill some of these guys to if you charge me, you die. You probably kill me, sure, you die.
You're
And if
dead
you don't
now.
kill my entire unit, I've got a Slaughterband in here. He's going to start rezzing models. So you really have to overcommit to killing me, and then
Mhm.
you die. It's yeah, the guaranteed fight on death is amazing.
Yeah.
You can't understate how good that is.
Oh man, these are really great strats. I'm sure that the rest of them will be as good.
We've
Um,
definitely not peaked.
okay, so we're gonna start rolling slightly downhill here. Rapid manifestation, your movement phase. You're exalted 8 bound only, so that's it. That's all. That's all you can select. can deep strike more than 3 inches away horizontally from all your enemy units. With the FAQ to core rules, this is 6 inches away. This unit cannot charge. So you can deep strike 6.1 inches away and then not charge. And it's literally just stand there and brood at you hard. Like it's you can't use this at all for any offensive abilities. You can't use it as a rapid ingress threat because it's your movement phase keyworded. This is a let me score some behind enemy lines and deploy teleport homers.
Yeah, so when I explain what my, because every time you play a new opponent, you take that sort of 5 minutes before a game to explain what your army does. One of the bits of my little script for that is how your army and every other army in the game, how you got 6 strats? Yeah, this detachment has 5.
Are you
And I will
sure? Are you
explain the
sure?
first 5, and I will say that I also have this strat that lets me deep strike 6 inches away. It is specifically with Exalted, it is specifically in my turn, and it doesn't let me charge. Don't worry about it, I'm not going to use it. There is never a time when I would want to use it. It is completely worthless. This strat could be anything else. GW could replace it with a strat to just kill one of your own models, and I'd probably still use it more often.
I would
It's
actually use that because the Slaughterbound could res the guy and you could
yeah,
gain
true.
movement.
That's true, but
Let's
it's
go.
oh yeah, this is possibly the worst stratagem in the game. It certainly is competing for it. You
Oh,
will
for
never
sure.
use it. Never
Yep.
ever. Put it out your mind. It doesn't exist.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got that over with. Okay, Warp Stalker is another 1 CP one. This is once again you're moving for charge phase, and then once again only a possessed unit that has not moved or declared a charge. So it can be used in two different phases, movement or charge phase. And you can end on your at the end of each phase until the end of the phase. You can move through terrain and models as long as you don't end within engagement range of enemy models. So basically, you get to have old fly on possessed, which sounds amazing on paper.
Yeah, and in practice, I'm a fan of it. What it means is that you, in a possessed Slaughterband list, you also run Invocatus a lot of the time. And Invocatus' own ability is that he gives you that pseudo fly. You can move through models, you can move through units. And if you are against an opponent whose list is designed to jail you, if they want to put things up against your wall and say, you can't move through me, ha ha ha, which is not uncommon in the game.
Yep.
You get to explain to your opponent that because you have access to Invocatus' unit on one side and any other unit on the battlefield, you are functionally immune to being jailed. And what that means is they won't even try. Which means this strat is fantastic because you will never actually have to spend a CP on it.
Yep.
Your opponent will just not put things directly in front of you, and they'll be happy about this because they're not sacrificing units. You'll be happy about this because you've not had to spend CP and you've not got your walls blocked. This is one of those very good stratagems that is very good because you'll never have to use it. And I like these strats. There's a bunch of these strats in the game that your opponents just have to play around because you have them, and that's really good. It's a very strong thing for the detachment.
100%. I like that the threat of it is there. Realistically, it's difficult to use because Exalted don't move, or sorry, Exalted and 8 Bound don't move very fast in comparison to some of the other combat armies now. 10 inches is good. It is not great.
This is
So
true.
realistically, I think you have to be within 7 inches to be able to move over a model, depending on like a 25 mil base size. Because the 40 mil base is basically the way that it works is you have to be at least within 7 inches, maybe it's six, to get over them and on the other side of them. So realistically, that's pretty close already. But that doesn't mean that it's not useful. If someone's trying to, block you or set up a move block scenario that prevents you from charging something really useful, getting your exalted to the monster that they think they're screening is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Um, Realistically, I would hope that I don't have to use this too much because those other strats that we kind of talked about already are really burning holes in my pocket in terms of my CPU.
This is true.
Um,
You hope that you don't have to spend CP on this, in all
yeah,
honesty, because CP economy is a huge thing for this attachment. Yeah, you don't want to have to spend CP on it.
for sure. Horrifying violence, last but not least, definitely, well, it can't be least in this detachment because rapid manifestation exists. Your opponent's command phase only, a possessed unit only, and enemy unit within engagement range of that unit must take a battle shock at -1.
Yeah. So what we've got here actually is a good battle shock strat. There aren't very
Mhm.
many of them in the game. This is the good timing. It's in your opponent's command phase, so your opponent isn't about to immediately turn it off. It isn't in the battle shock step, which means your opponent cannot auto pass. They cannot use hero bravery to auto pass this test. They will have to take a test, and it works on every unit within engagement range. So if you manage to tag 2 or 3 different units, they all have to take a test. It is at -1, which means it bumps the failure rate of most units up to about 50%. It's it's strong. If you've got CP spare, it can flip objectives because all of a sudden it's not your opponent's objective, it's yours. Great, they don't score primary. It often means if they fail the battle shock, then they're going to have to take desperate escape tests if they want to fall back. So you're killing chunks of an army as you go. With that said, it is still a battle shock strat. And at the end of the day, most of the time, you're going to be saying, okay, I'm going to make you take this test. 50% of the time, it is going to do nothing because you're just going to pass it. And armies like Tyranids or anyone else that is able to manipulate their battle shock tests, they can just ignore this completely. But there will be, at least every couple of games, every few games, a moment when this goes off and it flips the script.
Mhm.
It can be amazing.
Yep.
It often won't be, but at least it is good enough to remember that you have it.
It also works in conjunction with maybe our best blessing, which is the 6-inch pylon and 6-inch consolidate. Because it
Yes.
doesn't say it's something that where they like fought them. It's something in engagement range of. And so you're 8 bound, crush something, and then consolidate 6 inches into a bunch of units. And I think it says each unit that's in engagement range of them.
Yep.
So like you could theoretically fold a line of guardsmen or Tau or anything else that's weak battle shock, and all of a sudden you make it really difficult for them to use their strats and use their stuff. Like you said, it's still a battle shock stratagem. There are hoops to jump through here. Once again, we do have 3 insanely good strats that we don't want to be using CP for. But if you're going to lose the game because someone's going to hold primary and you have a chance to make them not hold primary, maybe worth it, right?
Yeah,
So
no, it's,
there's
it's
that.
massive. It is obviously also in mentioning the good timing of it. It also comes after your opponent has drawn their secondaries,
Ooh, so fun.
so you
So
can pick on your opponents. If your opponent has drawn engage on all fronts, and your opponent has one unit that is both on an objective and the only thing in a table quarter, you're not just denying primary; you're also denying them being in that quarter. Area denial potentially. The one unit in the middle, you make them fail a battle shot test. They don't exist. It I wouldn't normally use this to try and flip a single point of primary. I would use this to try and flip 2 things.
yep, 100%. Okay, that's the strats, the enhancements, and the rule, I guess the detachment rule. So all in all, what we have is one insanely great enhancement, 3 incredibly strong um strats, 2, I guess, weaker utility strats,
Yeah.
and one that doesn't exist. It's fake.
Yes.
Um, Realistically, and obviously we can use that little our little tactical nuke bound to kill one wound models and stuff like that. So he's fun too. Realistically, this is a detachment that clearly sends its damage to the moon and can make 8 bound more difficult to kill, but slightly. Like,
Slightly.
and so I guess now we need to kind of break down, maybe let's look at a list. We'll break down how it works and what kind of problems this list can do and why maybe you want to play it and try it out. All right, Josie. So you took this to LGT. You have a list that you took. We already talked about that. And then it later won a GT. Um, so why don't you take us through that list? Obviously, I think it's a little different now because there were some point changes. Caught a shadow nerf.
It did, yeah. We caught strays from the Berserker Warband stuff. Everybody was running Slaughterbands in their own Berserker Warband list and in every other list that anybody the player ran. They were probably underpriced. It it was a reasonable nerf, but it definitely didn't help Possessed Slaughterband. So yeah, let's run through that list. So as I say, small disclaimer: this did get nerfed. I'll run through the basic couple of changes that I would make to this list at the end of this. But the list that has had some success, the only list that has had any success for Possessed Slaughterband really since the Codex came out, it looks like this. So we've got Lord Invocatus. As we say, we take him partially because you can give him +1 damage, which is very funny because the strat works on everything in the unit. And because he is part of that combo that makes the army functionally immune to being jailed. Being able to walk through stuff is still just, it's always a good thing to have access to. This list has 2 Slaughterbounds. One of them has Frenzied Focus for that 5-up crit. It's amazing, you always take it. And the other one has Violent Demise for the reasons that we mentioned earlier. He can be amazing used as a tactical nuke. He doesn't have to be. If you're against an opponent where you get more value from just having a Slaughterbound with 8-bound, it's only a 10-point enhancement. You just stick him with the 8-bound. It's fine. Chances are he's not going to die and kill any of your models because he'd be the last one to die anyway.
Minorly offensive note here is that Glaive Bound is now more expensive than 5-up's Crit Bound. I mean, he was before, but now it's like a lot. It's
It
like
is a lot.
not close now, and I'm just like, that's so annoying.
Yeah,
Because
Warband
this guy
players, you
is
want to...
amazing.
Yeah, 35 points for +1 damage, or 20 points for 5-up crit and access to +1 damage anyway. You choose, Warband players. And then the final character in this list is a Demon Prince. As we mentioned earlier, this detachment has some fantastic strats. And one of the things that I set myself as a goal when I was looking at building a Slaughterband list is it needs to have 2 things in it. One of them comes here in the Demon Prince. The other one comes much further down the list. But a Demon Prince is, in my opinion, obligatory. He doesn't get anything from the detachment. He doesn't give anything to the detachment. But you need strat discounts in this detachment for it to work. Part of the thing that makes this detachment so good into melee is your ability to trade up into stuff. And in order to do that, you need to have the CP for guaranteed fight on death. If you're against an opponent that's going to rush you, you need to have the Demon Prince turn 1 to have access to fight on death turn 1. In an ideal world, a lot of the time, you're not just going to be popping fight on death. You're also going to be popping fight on death and +1 damage, because you can use them both at the same time. For any of those cases where something with 3 wounds is punching you to death, and there are a lot of things with 3 wounds that are going to punch your 8-bound to death. Being able to pop both of those costs 3 CP. You don't want to be spending 3 CP every time your opponent fights into you. At that point, the rest of the list, unsurprisingly, this is a detachment that buffs 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound. You are going to be spending a lot of your points on 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound. So this list took 21 of those bodies. It took 3 units of 3 Exalted, 2 units of 3 regular 8-bound, and 1 big unit of 6. You get a lot of value out of the 6. Being able to res models with a Slaughterband means that 6 can live, and often we've mentioned that they are quite squishy. A 3-man will often not survive Overwatch, potentially. It certainly will not survive most combats, and a brick of 6 takes some real investment when you've got -1 to wound available. It's very expensive, and you need to have multiple units elsewhere, so you can't lean too hard into the big bricks. But having 1 is a massive help for the list. I then also took 2 units of Jackals, because Jackals are amazing. One of them stickies your home and stays there for the rest of the game most of the time. Another one goes and dies in the right place. That is the job of a jackal, no matter what detachment you play. And as long as they die in the right place, you've done fantastic for 65 points.
Mhm.
I also had 2 units of spawn. Same thing as the jackals. Spawn are just world eaters, good stuff. You can never go wrong with taking spawn. They've got scout, they've got advance and charge. They can threaten random stuff that you don't otherwise have access to harming. And they're just incredible. They're still arguably the best data sheet in the codex. And we were, I think, very lucky that they survived the last slate completely intact, I would argue.
I was surprised.
Yeah. And then the final thing in this list is the second part of what, for me, is required in a Slaughterband list. And that is the World Eater's Land Raider.
Love it.
The two big problems of this attachment is the CP economy, that is solved by the Demon Prince,
Okay.
and durability, and that is solved by the Land Raider.
Yeah.
It takes 7 8-bound bodies, so it can be a big brick of 6 and a Slaughterbound. It can be a few units of 3. You will spend most of the game cycling units in and out of it. It's an incredibly valuable thing to have in this detachment. And you will enjoy the number of times your opponent says, "Oh, so you can move this and then get out and charge," and you say yes, or I could just get out and move 10 inches anyway because the Land Raider already moves 10. It doesn't help with mobility, but it really does help you get to where you're going properly. There will also be regularly those niche moments where you don't want to walk things up the board at people because they have Overwatch. A Land Raider can move 10 inches, pile your boys out behind a wall somewhere, and they can still charge. You can avoid all sorts of nasty things that your opponent wasn't necessarily expecting you to be able to avoid. In addition, a Land Raider just offers some reasonable shooting. There is no other shooting in this list. Functionally, 8-bound don't have guns. And all of a sudden, having 8 las cannon shots downfield, it can swing things because your 8-bound move 10 inches. You have no real way of improving your threat range once your 8-bound are on the board. You need some ranged threat. And the fact that it's in a T12 2-up armor save box is a massive help. Yes, so this list at the time was a solid 2,000 points. It did go up 45 points in the last balanced data slate, which is not ideal. It means a couple of
Ooh.
changes, but in my opinion, the changes are very minor. So what I would do here is I would take out that second unit of jackals. That is a shame. I would take out that second spawn unit, which is also a shame. And what it buys you is a third Slaughterbound. You just lean even harder into what this detachment does. You have enough points to buy a Slaughterbound with an enhancement. For better or worse, you've got 25 points, so you can't actually afford the auto 6 on the Blood Surge. This is a good thing. I would argue what you can buy is the enhancement that occasionally gives you some CP for killing stuff, and actually, that's very good in this detachment because you need a lot of CP. If you've got a
Mhm.
Demon Prince discounting on one end and you're generating CP on the other, you will have enough command points to do all of your cool tricks, and that's fine. In my opinion, it needs a spare Slaughterbound. I wouldn't put this on a Demon Prince unless I really had nothing else to spend points on. But having a third Slaughterbound in the list makes it great, in my opinion. But yeah, this is a list which does exactly what the detachment buffs. Almost everything is 8-bound. Basically, all of your damage and all of your utility is coming from either 8-bound or stuff that is actively supporting what 8-bound are trying to accomplish. There's no way around that really with this attachment. It's not like other ones. All of your strats only really work on 8-bound. Most of your enhancements work on 8-bound. That's your game plan. So it makes the list kind of write itself in some ways, but it is important to put in those little bits of tech. Look for a Demon Prince. Look for a Land Raider. I don't think an 8-bound spam list can work competitively without putting those in the list too. And for me, they never come out of a Slaughterbound list.
Yep. I think that those pieces of tech also, like you said, kind of do a little bit of some functional gameplay things. I heard the Land Raider has one or two blast cannon shots,
Just a couple,
um,
yeah.
just a couple. So obviously that's enough to threaten your big scary things, and people play weirdly when you have oops 8 las cannon shots, right?
Absolutely.
Having lone op access, which is something I never thought we would have, is a nice to have, right? I don't know how often that's going to come up, but realistically, it's very good. He's going to be
Yeah.
hanging out with some boys. He needs to be central to the army, so he'll probably always be within 3 inches of something. And maybe if he's walking near a land raider, it's it's pretty tough to get him.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like you said, that 3 inches of disembark actually does get you a little bit of that extra movement for your 8 pound. So potentially 13 inches instead of 10, right? And yeah, that's really cool. I do take offense to 8 pound who don't have guns. They clearly have one on each arm. Um, so, but realistically, I think this is just a really, really fun detachment that I think a lot of people overlook because it's bad. Um, that in this case looks to be a lot of um fun. Like just a lot of like, I here's my unga bunga and I'm gonna smash the heck out of you. And if you can add these little tools that you just talked about where it makes it a little smarter, a little more tactical, you kind of start to unlock some of the abilities that are the pure smashiness of an 8 pound spam. That looks awesome.
Yeah. No, I think Slaughterbound is it's an incredibly fun detachment. One of the things that I know our Brian likes to talk about is the 3 Ds of a melee army. And he likes to, what you need to have in any melee army for it to be good is damage, durability, deliverability. This detachment has damage. It
Yep,
has almost infinite damage. Higher than Berserker Warband, higher than anything else we have access to.
sure.
100%. It struggles for durability. 8 pound aren't very durable, but we have ways of improving that with a Land Raider.
Yep.
Deliverability is also not amazing. Once things are on the board, they move 10. If they're in a Land Raider, they move 13. You'll often find yourself putting some of your Exalted into Deep Strike, and because they're in Deep Strike, they're a reasonable rapid ingress threat. That is a real thing that you can do. There is some deliverability. This is not a bad detachment because you have ways of getting all 3 of the pillars. But
Mhm.
if we are an A plus for damage, this is a D minus for deliverability and a D minus probably for durability, even with a Land Raider in the list, because you have to get out of the Land Raider to go and punch things to death. But it's
Um,
incredible fun.
Yeah, 100%. It looks awesome. Definitely I've been down on this detachment because realistically it just didn't it was just like, oh man, like this is not there's so many things missing here that I really want to try that I really wanted my 8 pound to have. Um and so when we talked about doing this series, I was like, I definitely want to do the possessed video because I'd love to talk this out. Like, and you've
Yeah.
definitely made it more exciting for me to want to try this. So definitely gonna probably see if I can scrap some games in here with this. Let's talk a little bit about tech and how to use the list. Um, like leaders, you have Avocado. You've got now three Slaughterbound, and so obviously we've talked a little bit about Tactical Nuke Guy. He often goes by himself, but he can go with another unit as well.
Yeah.
Um, do you normally put him with a 3 or a 6 if he does attach?
He, for me, is often the guy that runs with a 6. I don't
Okay.
want him to die before the right time, so you put him
Yep.
with the biggest unit so that he's less likely to explode in your army.
Okay.
You will pot almost every time your crit fives guy with either 3 8 bound or 3 exalted, and you will look at your opponent's army before the game and you will say, does this have a lot of vehicles? Then I need to put him in there, or does it not have a lot of vehicles? In which case, he leads regular 8 bound.
Mhm.
For me, Invocatus every time leads exalted. He is a great deep strike threat. He has a bit of speed. He has some impact mortals, which can do surprising things on occasion. And he really likes being +1 damage. I've never not run him with Exalted. He's amazing for that.
Yeah.
And
Three
then you've
damage to
got
have wounds is fun.
it's so much fun. And then yeah, we've got a third Slaughterbound now. He can go in again. You just pick and choose what you need. I don't like to overload the 3-man 8 bound units with a Slaughterbound, so I'd probably most of the time try and put him in Exalted.
Okay.
The reasoning behind that is that because a Land Raider is not a dedicated transport, it does not have to start with anything embarked in it. And one of the things that is really quite fun for you is to pop your 8 bound on the board initially. And you can tell your opponent these things scout 6. There is a 16-inch amount of movement turn 1. If you put stuff too close to the line, there is a reasonable threat that they could charge you. And your opponent deploys a few inches off the line, and your job is done. Because you never actually wanted to be charging in turn 1, most of the time anyway. What you then do,
Speak for
the game,
yourself.
you just scout straight into the Land Raider. Because a scout move is a normal move, and before the game even starts, your guys are safely inside their metal box.
Bunker.
It's a great option to have. And there are those games, those deployment, those maps where you really can't deploy all of your 8 bound safely. And it can be a bit of a mind game to deploy them completely unsafely with the full expectation of getting them straight into a Land Raider if you don't go first, especially if you don't go first.
Yeah, that's awesome. 100%. So when you're kind of setting up on the board, you like to use how many exalted and deep strike? Obviously, this is so like this is very
Broad
mission
strokes, yeah.
and mission and opponent dependent. But what do you like to? How do you like to make this army a threat to your opponent?
Yeah, so I like to have the Land Raider as central as possible. Usually it will either move towards the middle but not onto the middle, or if my expansion objective is a little bit unsafe, it often goes and makes his little bunker spot over there. You will often find yourself putting 2 units of Exalted in Deep Strike. One of those will almost certainly be led by Invocatus. The other one will often be led by another Slaughterbound. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. I don't normally put more than 2 things in Deep Strike, really, in any of my lists. I like having the option of Rapid Ingressing turn 2 and 3. I don't really like Deep Striking or coming on from reserves and just going for a 9-inch charge. That's not the
Hmm.
way I play 40k. I think Rapid Ingress threats are fantastic. And
Hmm.
budgeting that sort of 1 CP a turn spend into your turn 2 and 3 is something
Yep.
that can be done and, in my opinion, should be done. An 8 bound unit, an exalted 8 bound unit, being able to just punt into something basically for a guaranteed charge is one of the most valuable uses of CP you can have.
Yep.
You absolutely should be spending it. So what you're looking at really is Jackals on home. Jackals doing Jackal things. You've got a unit of Spawn that is going to go and trade somewhere.
Yep.
This will then struggle for trading pieces. If you're against an opponent who likes to play a trading heavy game, Possessed can struggle. There's not many cheap options in the list.
Hmm.
But 3 mana 8 bounds are still only 135 points. They're not incredibly expensive for what they offer.
Yeah.
And 3 8 bound can still kill most screening things and a lot of heavier stuff as well. So you'll find yourself hoping that your opponent doesn't really trade much. You're going to try and lock down your expansion. And that's incredibly easy to do when you've got a Land Raider nearby. They will
Hmm.
not want to come close. You want to be able to threaten whatever's in the middle. Most maps nowadays have fairly unsafe middle objectives, so you won't end up actively brawling there. That's not a safe
Yep.
place for you to brawl. And you want to be able to use your Exalted to threaten weak spots. If your opponent leaves their expansion objective unsafe, send some Exalted into it. Clear that
Yep.
thing off. They don't score any primary this turn. If they
And
leave
then
their
fight
home
on death.
objective safe,
And then
in you
fight on
go.
death and kill them off.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. In melee games specifically, you can just stand on the middle objective and bait things in, because if you're not going to get shot to death, it puts you in a real advantage. If you're in a melee game, you can bully the board in a way that World Eaters players aren't really used to a lot of the time. We tend to keep things safe and look for counter charges most of the time. You just don't need to in Possessed. You can send stuff out. And if your
Awesome.
opponent doesn't have the shooting threat, you're going to win the game a lot of the time, just on sheer bulk.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So I think we've given everyone a kind of good idea of what this detachment does, how it functions, how it plays, how to play it competitively. Obviously, guys, please make it your own. Obviously, you can use Josie's list, but put the stuff in there that you want to play with. Like this is a game of toys. Play with your stuff.
Certainly is.
But let's, I guess, wish list here. Pretend GW actually pays attention to us. What would you like to see changed from Slaughter Band that you think might be is a reasonable change. Obviously, we could say, hey, I would wish everything is one CP and it all works all the time. But what are reasonable changes to this detachment that you would want to see?
Yeah, so reasonable changes. Firstly, make the blood surge match what berserkers do. There's no reason that we need to have a d6 flat blood surge. There's nothing wrong with the d6 plus 2.
Yep.
What I'm seeing at the minute is a lot of detachments in the game, newer detachments coming out with different ways of manipulating charges. So you've got the new Drukhari detachment that is able to charge you in your own turn. That would be an
Hmm.
incredible thing for Possessed to be able to do, and would be
Hmm.
completely within the realms of fluff. There's a Dark Angels detachment now that is able to charge you if you just happen to be nearby.
Yep.
There are some incredibly interesting ways of doing elite melee that this really hasn't lent into. It just went, oh, it's a
Hmm.
blood surge. We'll do a blood surge. That's what world eaters do. It would be nice to have a detachment rule that matters more than once a game. But I understand that if what they're leaning to is the blood surge, then the blood surge would be nice to be slightly better.
Yeah.
The enhancements are fine. The flat six could be cheaper, but that's just because GW didn't recognize really what they were making when they made it. It's too expensive. Hey ho. And we have a good strat suite. We have 5 stratagems in this.
We're old warband. We're
Yeah,
old warband with 5 strats.
there's a spare strat that could do any number of things. It probably isn't going to be a durability strat because we've got the -1 to wound, which is amazing.
Yep.
As much as valuable as a feel no pain would be, I don't think there's a order we get that. What it looks like they're trying to do here is a positioning strat, and that
Yep.
is fine. Remove the restriction on not being able to charge from rapid manifestation. That's all it would take. We already can't drop at 3. That's been, and this is an old strat at this point that was written before the FAQ was written that made it drop at 6. And I understand why drop at 3 you can't charge is a completely reasonable restriction, and
Mhm.
everyone that could drop at 3 had that restriction completely reasonably.
Yep.
Nowadays, units are coming out and new things are coming out that have the drop at 6 built into the rule, and they don't have that charge restriction. I
Yep.
don't see any reason why this strat and any of the other ones as well that have been updated from 3 inches to 6 need to have the restriction on not being able to charge. It would turn this into a strat that you would at least consider using. I still don't like 6-inch charges, they scare me. But there are lots more cases where you would use a 6-inch drop to try and steal somebody's home objective, or like you'd go for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't
And I would
take
I
much
would
else.
I'll take a 6-inch charge all day. I'm a maniac.
Yeah, and it adds that bit of deliverability into the list,
100%.
which
Um, I-
otherwise we're spending CP for rapid ingress.
yep. I think on an elite melee list, that's probably not so bad. I think that would be an incredibly powerful stratagem to deep strike within 6 and cause problems because 340 mil bases are real hard to screen.
This is true.
So that'd be quite the sweet. I would also wouldn't be upset if they gave you like a 1 CP advance and charge after like in the charge phase, like one of the like the good advance and charge.
Yeah.
Give us the good advance and charge strat. You just like all of a sudden you're figuring out what you want to do with stuff. Brazen Fury, I don't like. I know that they really wanted to do the surge move. I don't know how to make that good in this arm. To be honest, I don't even think +2 does it. Like it changes where they have to bubble out, I guess. But realistically, like we said, if all these 3-man units, they're dead if something looks at them. Like um, I would
Yeah.
love to see the feel no pain as a detachment rule. I understand that you can't like they don't want exalted back to where they were. They clearly don't want that as a design feature where these things murder everything they touch and also are annoying to kill.
Yes.
I can understand that. I don't know. I honestly don't know what I would want it to be. Um, that isn't that like.
No, it is.
realistically.
It's difficult. I mean, you could have it key off opponents falling back even, and it would still come up more often than this. You'd still feel
Yeah.
kind of bad about it because most of the time you're not going to get the chance to trigger it.
Yep.
But if it keyed off your opponent's falling back and it did let you get into engagement range for after that, even if it
Yeah.
was one unit a turn, if it's not on every unit, but one unit a turn can chase something when it falls back.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, I was actually just literally in my head thinking as we're talking about that, and if the rule said like at the end of your opponent's charge phase, one unit from your army can make a charge against a unit within nine of it, that would be incredible.
Yeah, any number of
Like
ways to improve it.
Like there's some cool stuff. Anyway, we could talk all night, literally, about the fun things we would love 8-Bound to be able to do. Realistically, I think this is a pretty good dive into what Possessed Slaughterband does and maybe does not do as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the listen. Anything that you want to add before we pop out, Joes?
No, I think I would love to see more people give this detachment a try because I think a lot more
Mhm.
people would vibe with it than they expect to.
Yep.
It always feels weird playing a detachment that kind of doesn't have a detachment rule, but it plays the army in a way that you're not doing, and it's worth giving it a go. See if the playstyle meshes with you. You never know.
Absolutely. 100%. All right, guys. Well, it's been awesome. I'm Ryan, it's Josie. Stay safe and kill, maim, burn.